Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. I'm Paul Lathrop, your host. Joining me today, Aquil Qadir. He is the lead instructor at the Citizen Safety Academy. And thank you very much for joining us today, Aquil.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So quite often on these, we talk about organizations, but this is the first time we've really brought somebody on to talk about individuals. So I want to start with your individual story. As we were talking, as we were getting ready for recording this, I found out you're a second generation trainer. Your father started your family tradition of training, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he started a gun club in Buffalo, New York, for anybody, but primarily directed at what he thought was an underserved demographic, which is the east side of Buffalo, which is primarily African American. But he started the club and he would do classes, and he actually had an FFL for a while. And the goal was to create more Second Amendment people in that community. And something I just thought about this when I saw when he came on. My father was very good friends with Joe Tartaro, who helped him a lot, in that regard, and he would, and up until about just a couple of years ago, I would, talk to Joe about, different things but yeah, I started with my dad, and we would, I helped him out, and he got me kind of going in this direction, really.
Very cool. So you're from Buffalo. From my understanding from our conversations we were getting ready, you've been training. You were helping your dad, I believe you said it, starting at 12 years old, helping to train?
Yeah, he started a youth group where he would take inner city kids to outside of the Buffalo city limits, out to the rural areas, so that they could see something different than, the bricks we were kind of growing up in. So they would see, he would have them hunting, fishing. He had a little garden, and he would also, part of it was shooting, and so, he bought a couple of those cricket rifles, the cricket 22 rifles we had back then. He showed me how to use them, and then he would have me show the kids in the group how to use them. And in fact, if you look on my website, there's actually a picture of me at 14 years old showing some of the kids from the youth camp how to train and how to shoot the rifles. So he was, nobody was doing where we were. Nobody was doing anything like that to that level, So it was cool, and it got me going in that regard. And then he would also, help with pistol permits in Buffalo area, and he would also help Buffalo police officers who couldn't pass the qualification course. He would help them, and I would watch him and help him do that. And that got me into the whole apprentice thing, So even now as an instructor, I, consider myself more of a senior student than an instructor, because he is a mentor, and I have other mentors. Tom Givens is one that I still to this day go out and, try to train with those guys to find out how to bring good information to the people.
Absolutely. And I believe myself, in anything you do, you're either learning or you're stagnating. And I believe all good instructors need to continue to learn in the process. Would you agree with that?
Without a doubt. I often tell it, me and Tiffany Johnson, we do a lot of instructor classes here. We do at least 6 a year. One of the things I tell the instructors, we consider ourselves more of a gateway instructor incubator here. And when we talk to the instructors, we tell them, you never go like this. You're either going up or you're going down. And the minute you start going down is the time to, take another role or do something else in the movement. But we always strive to get better. It's funny, me and her just assisted Tom in an instructor course he did here in Middle Tennessee just last month. And I've been in that class 10 times. And I still took 15 pages of notes, and noticed that Tom's class is not exactly as it was just a year ago. So even my mentor, Tom's one of my mentors, he's constantly improving and getting better and tweaking his class so that it's better.
Gateway instructor, is that, I'm guessing, something like a gateway drug? You bring them in, you give them a taste, and you hope they go on and want more?
That's exactly it. We do a lot of teaching of new people, and our marketing is so that we hopefully get, and we get all kinds of people here, and that's hopefully by design. And what we tell them right off the bat is, becoming a responsibly armed citizen is a process and not a class. And, and after you're done with this class, the next question should be, what next? And that's what we try to gear people in that direction. And we also teach gateway instructors in an attempt to have the best people at the gateway of the Second Amendment movement, the Second Amendment community, the best people to be their ambassadors there to bring people in of all types, and get as many of all types of people into the movement and into the firearm ownership, responsible, sober, mature firearm ownership as we possibly can. So yeah, I mean, Tiff said I coined the term, but I don't like to take. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. Somebody's used it. Nothing's new, but that's the term we type to use. Is that as opposed to complaining about it, let's get out and change it. Let's be good gateway instructors and let's train good gateway instructors.
That's awesome. Now, in the past year, gun ownership has exploded, and if you believe the news stories, there has been something in the north of 5 million new gun owners this year. And every instructor I've talked to is very busy. I would expect none the less from you. My question is, have you seen the news stories seem to point to increased diversification, more women, more minorities in gun owners? Are you seeing that in training as well? Are you seeing increase in minorities and women taking your classes?
Overwhelmingly so. Literally, overwhelmingly so. I've been doing this, just as Citizen Safety Academy is about 6 years old, and we have not had a year like this. It's absolutely amazing. Between 60 and maybe even 70% of my new students now are females.
Wow.
Easily. Yes. And we're doing, last year we did 1,200 students. This year, I'm sorry, in 2020, we're on par to do about 1,200 students. And that's for, an outfit that's got me and maybe 2 other part-time instructors, and that's a lot of people, more than we normally do. And we've got them where now people literally are showing up the day of classes, hoping someone doesn't show up so they can get to the class. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this I've been at this almost 40 years, and I haven't seen anything quite like what we're seeing now with the influx of new people and really new people, where it's like, most of our classes now it's allowed us to refine our technique in teaching them too. Learning new things. I just learned something last week with a new shooter, and just how much, one thing that Tiff is really good at, and I think we spoke earlier about, somebody like Kathy Jackson is a lot of times, us guys don't take into consideration the emotional component that comes, and not just with female shooters, new people, but with male shooters too, but just what they're bringing to the class with them, and it's actually helped us to tailor our instruction to make them more comfortable. So
you take people from their very first shot and I'm assuming your goal is to make them competent to carry on a daily basis. That's
the goal, right? In the first class is more of a demystification. It's to create parking spaces in their head for hopefully what they're going to do, going to get going forward. Is to get the big ball rolling, and mostly we want them to walk away with a good feeling about firearms usage. In our instructor classes, we show a picture of a girl that was actually my daughter-in-law's bridesmaid, but and before they got married, my daughter-in-law, who's not a gun person, brought her girlfriends to our class to go, hey, my future father-in-law is a gun instructor, let's go take his class, and it was a kind of a crazy girls' night out type thing. Mm-hmm. And one girl was so scared, like even with a replica gun, a blue gun, she was like shaking to touch it. And then by the end of the class, we have this blown up picture of her with her target, and she's just grinning, and she had such a wonderful time. It was funny when I went to the wedding, finally, a girl goes and jumps in my lap, and I didn't even know who she was at first. Then I was like, oh, it's her, and I realized that we had actually overcome a great fear of hers. And my point to the instructors is how do you tell this person forever that guns are evil? And so what we're trying to do is, pass that on and not do too much in the first class, but really just get people comfortable, and introduce the concept to their minds that, this thing is just a tool, and that shooting, as for example, shooting is fun. And sometimes us defensive shooter instructor guys forget that shooting is actually fun.
In what I do, I often write articles on media that other people have done, and I found that is a common thread among instructors recently. Is that there's a lot of reasons people take training. There's a lot of fear in the country right now, but almost to a person, what I've been hearing is we need to, in order to keep them, let them know that this is something that is not only important, it's also fun, and to keep the fun in it.
Yes, very much so. And, and it took me to realize some things, that yes, guns are scary to some people, and guys holding guns can be scary to some people. And even though that might not be to somebody like me, who was born in the gun culture and was raised around firearms and been around firearms all my life, that most people aren't like that. And they learn a lot from television, and they read a lot on the news and things like that. And how do you overcome that, that huge emotional speed bump that some people have to get them to where they can finally enjoy shooting? And so, that's what we've been tweaking here, and we're getting, hopefully getting better and better at it as we go along, because we actually really do. Had an interesting situation this past weekend with a girl who could press a trigger on a replica. I have a Glock 17R, which is a, resetting Glock. It's a law enforcement, tool that I use. It doesn't fire, but it's, it's a model Glock. And she could press the trigger in the classroom, in a drill that I have them do with just the lower part of the gun. But then when we got out to the range, her mind, she was so afraid, would not let her press the trigger. And so for half of the class, I would just, help her for the first couple of presses. And then by the end, I would just touch her finger and she would do it. And then if I walked away from her, it would get hard for her again. Then I would come up and just touch her finger a couple of times, and then she would do it. And my mind was blown. I had to share that with the rest of the guys that, as opposed to looking down on her, there's people like her out there. What do we do to make those type of people comfortable? Now that I've seen that, I have a parking space in my mind for something like that, and being able to work with people like that going forward in the future.
Well, and I think the mark of a good instructor, and having, like yourself, having taken training from several instructors, the mark of a good instructor is they teach to the student's ability and more importantly, the way the student learns. And it sounds like you follow that philosophy yourself.
We do, and that's our philosophy here, and that's the Range Master philosophy and the Tom Givens, and is that as opposed to looking at it being something wrong with the student, we always look and say, what is wrong with us, and what do we need to do to change to be able to get that student to get that information from us? And we're always going around collecting. Like, we as a group take a lot of intro level classes from other instructors, just so that we can collect good practices from other instructors. That's how, how they do things. And just recently, our whole class, 5 of my instructors went and took Tatiana Whitlock's basic level, entry level class. Awesome class. And when it was funny, because we were in there, she would say something. It was awesome, because you would see the new students, she would do things, and you could see a light bulb go off in their head, and then she would say another thing, and all the instructors would reach for their pads to write that down, like, oh, that was a great technique or a great tip, or the way she did that was awesome, and so that's what we do, is go around to many instructors and try to collect, acquire, audit, different techniques to make our presentations better and make our students more comfortable.
One thing I've noticed in both the instructor, and I do not consider myself an instructor. I'm a media guy, but I've taken a lot of training. I am friends with a whole lot of instructors, but it's the same in both instructor and the media area. There is no, that's my technique, that's what I do. The people who are instructors and the people in the media in the Second Amendment arena are incredibly sharing. Whatever they can do to help you become better, they do that.
Indeed. And that's what's so awesome about the community, and it's hard to explain to people who aren't in the community that, believe it or not, the gun guys are really nice guys. And that's something my dad taught me back in the day. And you go over these places, and especially as an African American, it's like, well, you're going where to do what, and then you have to come back and explain to people, listen, I felt at home with those guys. Those guys, Tiff Johnson will tell you a story where her brother was worried about her going to a conference, and he took her to the airport, but he doesn't know. So he's worried about his sister going to this gun conference with these guys. And when I came around and, explained to him, like, listen, she's safer there than anywhere else, especially anywhere in Memphis. And these people love her, and they don't know that until they come in. It's hard to describe, and you can tell them, like, listen, no, the gun community is an awesomely diverse community in some aspects of it. And, I want people to share that. And so my goal is to go out and bring as many people as I can in. And once they come in, they see it and they go, wow, yeah, this is what I've been telling you all this time, that it's wonderful here. We're really wonderful people.
Well, we're coming up on the end of our segment here, but before we go, if people are interested in first of all, where do you have your classes at? Where are you based out of?
We're in Middle Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. So Metro Nashville, Tennessee is where I'm located now. But me and Tiff travel. We've traveled as far as Pacific Northwest. So we will travel. But we primarily operate out of Middle Tennessee. And we tend to follow Tom Givens around. So wherever he is, you can find us there often too.
Sure. So if people are interested in your training, or maybe interested in you having to travel with them for training, how do they get in touch?
The website is citizensafety.com. You can reach us there. You can email us at info@citizensafety. That's 2 S's, citizensafety.com. Shoot us an email, check out our website. And we're always interested in what other people think about our website. We take all critiques and we listen to them and read them, even if they hurt our feelings. We're always looking to get better.
Amen. Aqil, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you for having me, Paul. You take care.
Yes, sir. All right, that wraps up another edition of the Daily Bullet. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe, and when you do, hit the bell so you know when we release another video. Come back and join us tomorrow. We're going to be releasing another one.